In 2020, Gary Haase illegally avoided paying taxes on over $1 million in capital gains and has been scalping Pokemon cards for over 20 years.
Most parents didn't have the time to do what myself and my wife were doing, trying to find cards, driving all over the place to get cards. And so they wouldn't be able to, but they would pay a premium on the auctions.
And Gary continues to lie and scam those in this hobby.
I knew nothing about those cards. Those custom cards that were being printed, that was all done by Collecticon.
But this card is such a big deal, his signature means nothing. I'm tempted to take it off of their...
Why?
I still have trouble erasing that. Okay, empathizing, babying the people, I don't know. Well, to doubt me, they're doubting the Aoki Foundation.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of silly.
Well, I guess we're getting silly today. The Aoki Foundation states that their primary goal is supporting organizations in the brain science and research areas, with a specific focus on regenerative medicine and brain preservation. Focused on how neurological disorders impact millions, the Aoki Foundation recognizes that neurological disorders cause roughly 10% of all emergency room visits, and the death of nearly 7 million people per year. With that being said, the Aoki Foundation and Steve Aoki continue to financially support and associate themselves with a man who laughed at over 700 children being hospitalized due to a neurological disorder called photosensitive epilepsy.
And it was causing kids to have seizures in Japan.
The electric soldier pouring down.
Legitimate seizures, being physically affected by that. And I don't know, I remember thinking, cool. I said, this must be real. This must be really, really neat.
Gary Haase, aka King Pokemon, thought it was so cool and neat that he hunted down the episode of Pokemon that triggered these seizures so he could make his 4- and 5-year-old sons watch it, hoping that it would affect them.
And so there was an internet back then, and I did, internet searches and that, and did find it, and watched it, and it totally, I was hoping it would affect one of my kids.
Using public records, we're able to find out that Gary's son, Devin, was 5 years old at the time of the incident.
I was hoping it would affect one of my kids.
And King Pokemon heavily associates himself with Logan Paul, who in 2018 recorded the hanging body of a suicide victim.
Is commonly referred to as Japan's suicide forest because it is a site of many suicides every year. And so that's where Logan Paul decided to go for what he described as a fun video. Now the video he ended up posting was titled, "We Found a Dead Body in the Japanese Suicide Forest, ... A thumbnail featuring him making a shocked face while wearing a silly hat, and where I have blacked out the rest of the screen, he had a picture of a dead body hanging from a tree, slightly blurring the head and torso.
And Gary has acknowledged research stating that those with autism are 3 times more likely to commit suicide.
A lot of that 16-year less death is due to suicides and things like that. Well, listen, all of us together are going to put a stop to that. And things like, me putting out my rookie NFT, it's just another step, towards helping them.
And yet, Gary Haase commonly refers to Logan Paul as a gentleman and dismisses Logan's previous and current controversies due to financial interest.
I mean, he's only 25. So when he had problems, with some of his, content, I mean, he was just a kid.
Yeah.
None of us want to be judged by our worst day. Right?
Oh, for sure.
Plus, he's an absolute gentleman. I mean, we had so much fun. He is totally legit. Good guy.
And when exposed, Gary Haase uses his followers to attack anyone that questions him.
But all she could talk about was misogyny and hating on artists, even though, that's all silly. Everybody knows me.
I know I said that I thought that she might have a little bit something funny going on, issues or something. And I guess that's possible. But I mean, that's dishonest. And if she's being dishonest, either she's trying to profit, from it, trying to build up on my reputation or something like that, or she's got a screw loose. I don't know which one it is, okay?
If you haven't watched my other videos on King Pokemon, don't worry, because today we're going to combine everything with a ton of new information, including evidence that shows how the Aoki Foundation is spending their donations, how Gary has been pumping and dumping collectibles for decades, his involvement with Metazoo, and so much more. Slow bros and ho-os, prepare for regicide. These are the lies that started it all.
Most expensive one?
The most expensive card is probably the Pristine 10 first edition base Charizard. The card itself is considered the crown jewel of the Pokemon world.
And how much is that worth?
In the range of 50 to 100,000.
Whoa. And people pay that for these. So how much do you want for these things?
I'm looking for right in the area of $500,000.
Gary's collection was not worth $500,000, and his BGS Pristine 10 first edition Charizard, ending in 888, was purchased by him for $10,800 just months before the filming of that episode. Gary claimed that the card was worth 5 to 10 times its actual market value, and Gary's collection that he brought in contained 10 or less PSA 10 first edition Charizards, which were valued at $4,500 by PSA at that time.
Graded 10s, I believe there's less than 50 PSA 10s in existence. And by looking at this, there's 20% of the market sitting on your counter.
The rest of Gary's collection that he brought in was a mixture of Charizards from other print runs and various sets, all of which were valued significantly less than the first edition base set Charizards. Gary was asking well above market value, with the intent to pump up the price of his cards, and with no plans on selling to Rick, something he would later admit to, but would reinforce the idea that the negotiation was real.
So, no, I didn't intend to sell, but the negotiation was real. Rick didn't know that, and Chumley didn't know that. But I didn't want to sell, but I did want to bring more attention to the hobby, and I knew that would. In other words, there's it's set up as far as the appearance, but the negotiation was real.
You going in?
The negotiation was 100% real because the negotiation was real.
Wow.
But then when the expert came in and said at 390,000 that was the true value, and he decided not to even make an offer, I was actually quite glad about that. In fact, once I left, the expert came up to me and wanted to try to work a deal, but it was easy to say no to that because it wasn't public. The negotiation for that show was 100% legit.
Despite the fact that Rick never made an offer and no negotiation ever took place, Gary knowingly used the show as a way to manipulate the price of Pokemon cards.
The best part of it was the first time a lot of parents saw it. And they have their kids playing with Pokemon, and then they see me there with a $500,000. They say, wait a second, it kind of legitimized, the investment value of Pokemon and that. And they thought, well, heck, this guy has this stuff. And, anyway, because especially the Pawn Stars episode, it made the parents who were watching it for the other content, it made them think, boy, there's something to this Pokemon. Hey, Junior, come here, take care of those cards. Let me see what cards you got there. Go on eBay, let's see what kind of values. In other words, it kind of sucked the parents in and made them interested because they saw what $500,000 collection. Well, wait a second, this isn't kids play anymore, right?
Gary would use his 5 minutes of fame to do interviews and collaborations with popular Pokemon YouTube channels, and would use each appearance to inflate the prices of Pokemon cards even further. When Gary purchased the second BGS Pristine 10 Charizard for $55,650, he used Leonhardt's channel as a way to pump up the price. Listen to how much Gary claims he paid.
How much was it for approximately?
It was a little bit under $100,000.
Okay, so we do know that there was another card that did sell for around $60,000 to $65,000. But guys, I think this probably blows that out of the water. What are the cards that you got?
Okay, we got a Pristine 10 BGS first edition base set Charizard.
Oh my gosh!
One of only 2 in the world.
There's only 2 in the world?
And the reason I wanted it so bad was because I have the other one. So I wanted to have both, and it was almost like it was a one of a kind because I have them both.
Gary had just picked up the card, and he's already trying to double the price. Gary knew that if he wanted to dramatically manipulate the prices of Pokemon cards, he would have to complete and document a transaction that would legitimize his prices. Gary would set up a transaction with one of his business partners, Steve, and have S. Pratt post the transaction on his YouTube channel. This is Steve, who is the same guy who's pictured in Gary's eBay listings, and he was even in the same episode of Pawn Stars. He's there in the background. Steve is paying $81,000 for 16% ownership of Gary's Charizards, the same ones that he claimed he would never sell. $81,000 is 16% of $506,250, which was an estimated value made up by Gary and Scott Pratt.
Right, yeah, we figured together on $500,000 value for these cards, and so the 16% is going to amount to $81,000 that, that's the agreement we came with.
Mm-hmm. This estimated value is suspicious, as it is slightly above the price that he made up for Pawn Stars, and confirms that this was an attempt to legitimize his own prices and to manipulate the price of Pokemon cards by force, something that S.M. Pratt even acknowledges.
We've reached a point now where the seriousness isn't even a question anymore. This is just yet one more high-end sale to further legitimize that inertia that already exists, not only for Pokemon, but for collectibles at large. And
Gary would continue to make multiple appearances on Leonhardt, Real Breaking Nate, and other YouTube channels leading up to the Logan Paul transaction. And even after, all of his appearances involved him pumping up the price of Pokemon cards. And Gary's followers, who are profiting from what Gary is doing, will try and use this clip to defend him.
People listen to me, right, about this. I think $358,000 is excessive, and I don't think they're worth that.
Yeah.
But what they all forget is that he also said this during the same interview.
You guess first, I'll guess second.
Now, you can't be wrong because one has never sold, because I would never sell them, and the other one's never shown up. So this is all guesswork.
I would say this is probably worth up to $2 million to the right collector.
Whew.
So I'd say $2 million.
I would have to agree to that price. That's an awful lot. There is no right answer to this. If I had to put a number like you guys just did, I would say maybe 800,000 to $1 million.
Yeah.
Would you pay $1 million for one of those?
That's a good question.
Oh man.
You don't want to tip your hat
Don't
necessarily.
I offered, for anybody who could find that third one for me, I offered $750,000 and $50,000 finder's fee. So that would be my maximum.
Yeah. And remember, just from selling to Logan Paul, Steve Aoki, and selling cards on Instagram, Gary has made over $1 million in less than a year from selling Pokemon cards. Here's an interview where Gary is talking about the first edition Charizard he sold to Logan Paul, and how it caused the rest of his cards to skyrocket.
Those 6 were all worth about 130, and now all 6 are worth about 350. So by selling him that one card, it actually increased, not that I'm selling them because I'm not, but it increased the value of the ones I had left. So when people say, oh, Gary, you must feel terrible. Logan, you can get 350 today. And I just say, yeah, I guess so. But I know my other ones, the prices went up so high that I made a lot of money by doing that. I would sell, for sure.
So to clarify, Gary is stating that he in no way lost any money at all, as the transaction was used to intentionally inflate the price of his other cards. And Gary had sold Logan Paul that Charizard before the box break had taken place. Here's a clip from Logan Paul's podcast talking about it.
Saw that we have a lot of Pokemon videos coming out. You saw my face when I bought that Charizard, bro.
It was one of the most just mind-blowing moments, just watching him sit there in front of Gary, the final boss.
The Dragon Master.
The Dragon Master from Pokemon. And he, there's this moment and Logan's offering him, I don't want to get too, the video's not out yet, right?
That video's coming out in 3 weeks. This is a first edition base set booster box that I bought for $200,000. Actually, $217,000, including tax.
Now, before I play the next part of this clip, I need to note that Gary Haase uses multiple accounts on auction platforms in order to artificially inflate the price of auctions. He stated, and I quote, "I have several stores and bidder IDs. I can't run too much through that one, meaning account, so I'll close it out with another." What Gary Haase is admitting to here is shill bidding.
I scared him away in the pre-auction.
You
Sorry?
overbet. You could have spent like 50 grand less.
No, I placed a $145,000 bet. Someone placed a $155,000 bet. It wasn't me. So I went up to 165, and Heritage Auctions, they have a buyer's premium. I really only bought this for 165K.
But then you got to pay their
The
premium.
buyer's premium brought it up to 200. Taxes brought it up to 217.
So the record-setting price for that box was placed before the auction even began.
We pulled our first edition Charizard of the day. I absolutely cannot believe this. Wow.
And you know what? Gary, the Pokemon King, and I both thought we had a gut feeling. No, I'm an expert with this at this point. We had a gut feeling I was going to pull two. I think I'm going to pull another one.
Okay, so Pawn Stars, the show. We all know it. We all love it. About 3 years ago, a guy named Gary went on the show. He had like a beautiful Charizard collection. He wanted $500,000 for it. The guy said no. Today, that collection is worth $5 million.
Were you really planning on selling those cards?
Not really.
You just did it for clout.
What are those cards worth today? That's probably about $10 million.
Now, Logan stated that Gary's collection was worth $5 million. And in the same video, Gary states that his collection is now worth $10 million. And remember, this transaction took place before Logan's first box break, but they didn't post it until after Logan's box break.
You know, like there's this moment and Logan's offering him. I don't want to get too. The video's not out yet, right?
That video's coming out in 3 weeks.
And one of the reasons why Gary has been wanting Pawn Stars to do a follow-up episode is because Gary would intentionally inflate the price of his cards even further.
And, like here it is 5 years later. And, and I still have basically all the, pretty much all the cards, most of them. I wish they would do a follow-up because it'd be good for the hobby. Not that the hobby needs anything right now, so big.
You've got some big hype men out there right now.
Right. I know.
If they called you in again, Gary, what would you take in?
Well, that would be the fun thing.
Yeah, that would be.
Because I would go in there with that same briefcase, and I would put it down and I would say $15 million now. I mean, I would be so happy for that to happen, right?
And come to find out, Logan Paul was the one that introduced Gary to Steve Aoki.
Yes, Steve was a friend, but we weren't involved in that way.
Did you really just meet him because you live close by? You just knew him?
Yeah. Just just as, in fact, I think if I remember right, quite a while back, I think Logan introduced him to me.
Oh, really?
Because I knew Logan first.
So we know that these two have been working together for quite some time, and Gary has been trying to get Logan involved in an NFT scam, something we'll talk about later in this video. But after publicly selling 16% ownership of his Charizards for $81,000, and then selling one of those Charizards to Logan Paul for $150,000, and another one to Steve Aoki for $170,000, Gary would go on to make nearly $1 million by selling Pokemon cards on Instagram. And that's not counting the cards he already sold. And Gary has been scalping cards for over 20 years.
Most parents didn't have the time to do what myself and my wife were doing, trying to find cards. Driving all over the place to get cards. And so they wouldn't be able to, but they would pay a premium on the auctions. And it was fun. The boys were involved in that. We, at the time, there was no PayPal or any payments like that. And so, me and the boys would go out to the mailbox each day, open up, there'd be 20, 30 white envelopes, with a $10 bill or a $20 bill inside. And we'd bring them inside, open them and fill the orders. And I mean, it was just a fun thing for us to do together. And I without that, I don't think I would have pursued it, but it was so much fun with them.
Also, when there's any sort of drop in value, Gary will try to discredit the grade of the card.
Gary, what do you think about the recent sale of the first edition base Charizard PSA 10 selling for $311,000? Wow, which is a 20 to 25% dip from the previous auction.
Yeah, Nick is accurate, with his numbers. Nick is accurate with his numbers, except I know that card, and it's a very, very weak 10. I don't know if I could call it a strong 9.
Now, Gary has pumped and dumped collectibles for decades, and this is why he has storage units filled with random TCGs, sports cards, and other collectibles. he has been hoarding and hoping that these items would skyrocket in value just like Pokemon.
Because Pokemon has been, you see, I'd say 80% of my collectibles in my storage lockers that I worked so hard and love them so much are absolutely worthless, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no value whatsoever, you know, like fallen empires, you know, trading cards and things like that I worked so hard to put together, and that they just simply haven't, you know, gone up at all, and most of them have dropped down to nothing. They're not worth anything. So a lot of those efforts I put, it just so happens that Pokemon has been extremely successful, and that was what I concentrated on for, 20 years.
To further prove that Gary has been pumping and dumping collectibles, let's look at his involvement with Metazoo.
Because I heard that they kind of had a nostalgic feel that wasn't all that dissimilar to Pokemon. And I know these are probably going to be super valuable one day, kind of like the Pokemon base.
It's a really cool game, man. Even me and Gary opening these boxes, it's like probably one of those things we're going to regret in a few years, opening these. Like, man, remember we opened that for Instagram? Worth like thousands.
And you can't even get the cards, hardly yet. We got them quick because we begged. We got down on bended knee and begged to get some of these in.
Okay, then I also want to, tell you that I have something inside this container that I think it is safe to say not a single one of you have ever seen before. And, I mean, that's pretty safe to say. I ended up getting in on the Metazoo Kickstarter, 9 months ago? Is it something like that? And I got these sent to me, back then. Let's see, the date on this is in September. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So somewhere around there, 8-9 months.
Boy, you know what? I can't open these and show you that, but you can go on the Metagames website, just search around a little, you'll find those characters and see what the artwork actually looks like. This is the Headless Horseman. See, if you open this, as I understand it, this group here is probably worth as much as a Tesla. This is a serious pull. This might be second to Mothman, I'm not sure.
So a $500 card, is that graded or is that rated?
Ungraded.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what is it worth? Totally? Take a guess.
Only Beckett's is grading them today.
Right.
I would guess 1,500.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it hadn't even released yet.
No,
And Metazoo, they're $2,400 a box and up, right?
Yeah, $2,500.
At the time of this video, it could be $3,000 or $4,000. I mean, it's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy how fast and popular those are growing, and they're so cool.
And they're not even released yet.
Not even
to
released
the general
yet.
public.
Yeah.
Claiming that these cards are already worth the price of Teslas, speculating that booster boxes are going to be worth the price of Pokemon First Edition base set boxes long before the game is actually released. Oh, and I almost forgot. Gary is now calling himself King Metazoo.
I want to mention Gary King Metazoo. I signed it.
Whoa!
Now I can use King Metazoo because on Instagram I say
saw
that
that.
name.
I tried. No,
I
saw that.
I haven't activated it much yet, but I am King Metazoo on Instagram.
Oh, is that the first time you signed it in person?
That's the first time I ever signed King Metazoo.
Wow.
Also, Gary isn't alone in this scam. Michael Waddell has been donating large amounts of money to the Aoki Foundation and giving gifts to both Steve Aoki and Gary Haase in exchange for their partnership, which Gary even lies about by claiming that he is in no way financially involved with Metazoo. And some of these gifts included cases of booster boxes, extremely rare promo cards, and uncut sheets of cards, which were created exclusively for Steve Aoki and Gary Haase.
I have one. Michael Waddell, the founder of Metazoo, has one, and Steve Aoki has one.
Oh, that is so epic.
Oh, we're gonna open up a 1-of-1 Mothman from Metazoo by Michael Waddell. Woo! I'm telling you guys, if you don't know about Metazoo, you need to get on the Metazoo train because it's just beautiful, beautiful. It's a 1-of-1. This is a 1-of-1. Incredible. A Mothman alternative art 1-of-1 Metazoo right here.
Michael Waddell, who owns Metazoo Games, is donating all of his, I believe it's Patreon dollars, all of his Patreon dollars. To give you an idea what he's done, every single nickel that goes in his Patreon
goes to Steve and my charity. It's all for that. And that's before Metazoo was anything. That's during the early Kickstarter days. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars has gone into the foundation. I can't really explain why there's such a huge interest in philanthropy.
Michael Waddell's bribery would eventually pay off, as Steve Aoki will become a full equity partner with Metazoo Games LLC. And Steve Aoki will use the Aoki Foundation as a platform to manipulate the prices of Metazoo, which is something we will talk about more in the charity portion of this video. But for now, let's listen to Gary's excuse as to why he received an entire case of Metazoo booster boxes, along with some other items from Michael Waddell.
So anyway, this is the first box. It was sent to me and Antoine, Autism Instruct. It was sent to us because Michael Waddell, the owner of Metazoo, was moving and didn't have that permanent address yet, and so he wanted it sent somewhere secure, and so it was sent to our place. And I wasn't here. In fact, I think I was with Michael messing around or something, and Tuan opened up the case to make sure what was inside, and this was the first box she saw, first box she pulled out, and she sent me a screenshot of it.
And here's a video of Mike Waddell and Gary Haase promoting Metazoo. Also note that the video is marked as made for kids. And I was going to save this next part for a separate Metazoo video, but here's Mike Waddell talking about the target age demographic for Metazoo.
Which I'm interested in is, like, where do you see, like, who do you see Metazoo's target audience to be? You know, given that it's like some of these little bit more horror adult themes, even though it's kind of cutesy art, although there's also like severed heads with the cutesy art.
I think when a 8-year-old sees, and I know because I have an 8-year-old nephew, sees a severed head of old Green Eyes and is like, that's really cool. You know, he's not sobbing and going to his, mom and being like, why is this person's head off his body? Like, some of them might, sure, but the target audience, I believe, is 8 and up.
Let's take a look at some of the cards. Here's Bunny Man. It's a regular guy inside of a bloody bunny costume holding a bloody hatchet. And according to the entry, haunting the outskirts of DC, Bunny Man is known to hang its victims in the trees surrounding his tunnel. And this is a boo hag that's viciously murdering a child and ripping its face off.
The target audience, I believe, is 8 and up.
And here's a card that cannot be used if you're wearing pants. So exactly how does one play this card between an 8-year-old and an adult? This crap isn't for kids, and it only enables creeps and predators. But yet they're targeting children with this product. Also, does anything feel familiar about this card? What if we put it side by side with the Pikachu illustrator? Both are holding a pen, and the owl's wing resembles the brush that Pikachu is holding. Look at the position of the legs on both cards. And look at the owl's crest. It looks a lot like Pikachu's ears. This isn't by accident. Metazoo was designed to look as close as possible to early era Pokemon. And here's Mike Waddell discussing how he intentionally picked out artists using that style.
What is Metazoo? Metazoo is very simply a vintage style of approaching a TCG that focuses on cryptids. Yeah, what does community driven mean? Well, it means that from the very beginning, from the sourcing of the Metazoo artists from Instagram, where I literally went through different artists and saw who kind of captured that old Pokemon, Ken Sugimori, vintage style of art, reached out to them. Some of them are students, some of them are, freelancers, some of them are biochemists, and said, hey, do you want to work on a cool project with me?
And they're even targeting people in the Pokemon community, trying to quote unquote switch them over.
That party last night was unbelievable. Yeah. And it turned into a Metazoo party.
Guys, here's
the wait till you see.
Yeah. You guys filmed it or something?
I've got a private filmer. Everybody there was a big influencer.
Wow.
They were all open. They're all Pokemon people.
Yeah.
They all love the Metazoo. That was my whole reason,
That's
you know,
awesome.
to tell Michael to do this.
Yeah.
Because we got to switch over the Pokemon people to Metazoo. Because that's our market.
Yeah.
And so he did it. And it was just amazing.
Yeah. Who's next?
So if Gary isn't financially involved with Metazoo, then why is he discussing marketing strategies with the creator, Michael Waddell, and one of the co-founders, Steve Aoki? Better yet, why is he addressing their market as our market? And based on that conversation alone, it is safe to say that Gary is more than financially involved with Metazoo, and that he's intentionally trying to push people away from Pokemon and push them towards Metazoo. And Gary has been shilling Metazoo all over E4 this entire time. And the moderators at E4 recognized the scam that it is, and got so annoyed with Gary that they changed the word Metazoo to multi-level marketing. Now, I've barely scratched the surface on the scam that Metazoo is, and we're going to cover Metazoo more in the charity portion of this video. But for now, let's get back to Gary, as I want to discuss how Gary is taking advantage of people and their mental state, especially during a time where lives are being lost due to a pandemic.
Items get hotter and hotter and hotter because those young people are growing older. They're starting to make
Right.
all the money, and they're buying all their memories back.
Because today's 7-year-olds, just like my boys in 1999, 7-year-olds, they're going to be growing up. They're going to be, buying back their memories.
That's all, memories are money, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Memories are money, is the way I look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Now listen to Gary mock those who are currently in quarantine or lockdown.
Now, a lot of the people didn't notice, but most of the time I had a shield on, a clear shield. We didn't want to hide this pretty face, right? So, so I wore the shield, the majority of the time. But a lot of the time, I remember I must have took pictures with, fist pumped or shook hands with 1,000 people. So, and I mean, that was all just about a week ago, and I feel perfectly fine. So, anyway, I can understand the concern. A lot of these people that have problems, they're locked in, and then they have to look at us at a beautiful collectible convention, having fun and meeting with each other. And I mean, I'd be a little bit bitter too.
Remember, this man represents the Aoki Foundation, and he holds himself as the highest authority in Pokemon, as well as the highest authority in Metazoo. And here he is mocking people that are trying to be responsible during a time where mental health is extremely important and lives are being lost.
People that have problems, they're locked in, and then they have to look at us at a beautiful collectible convention, having fun and meeting with each other. And I mean, I'd be a little bit bitter too.
You better just give 100%. Love what you're doing, where you're at. Because after that moment's gone, it's gone.
What about it touches you so much now?
Because I have people in my life that have gone away that I love. And I miss them so much.
When you were up there in Newport Beach recently, do you start thinking of?
I think about my best friend that passed away last year, who gave his entire life to support me.
That's all, memories are money, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Memories are money, is the way I look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Gary is the co-founder of a grading service called Robograding, and this service is a complete scam, and we'll go over the technical details later on in this video. Now, Gary started this service as a way to get back at PSA because they were no longer handing him 10s. And please note that the subtitles are embedded as part of the original video.
They hate it when I say things like PSA is the ones who created CGC or Robograding. I mean, we wouldn't be here if they did their job. No.
So I told you my favorite card is Tax Evasion, T17.
Right.
And so I got this pristine one. This Pokemon collector, he was here on the Pokemon League from 20 years ago. And I bought so many cards off him. And this was his prized possession, I guess. I thought it was I had a chance
Double
to win.
swirl, right?
Double swirl. Print line was just microscopic. You have to go in that little thing.
There's only one?
That's just one. It's not like a regular print line. It's and it cuts off in the middle. It's just a little. I was at least a 9. Perfect everything.
Absolutely.
I paid it was $25. Send it in. The service is pretty fast, about a week. And I get it back, it's an 8. It's an 8. That's my first card I ever sent in. And after that, I'm like, yo, we're gonna start a grading company. I'm pissed.
So this guy's upset because he thinks his card is at least a 9 and it comes back an 8. And now him and Gary are going to start their own grading company because they thought they deserved higher grades.
They have changed their grading parameters. I've been grading since 1995 through PSA, okay, before Pokemon. I know what things are supposed to grade. Okay, I've graded tens of thousands of cards and I've looked at every single one before sending it in, right? My pre-grading is spot on. Devin's is amazing pre-grading, even better than me. He's more accurate.
So this clown claims that his grading is spot on, but then in the same sentence claims that his son is more accurate than him.
Pre-grading is spot on. Devin's is amazing pre-grading, even better than me. He's more accurate. So anyway, I sent those in. I just got the results. My pre-grades should have given me 4 10s, 11 9s, and 1 8. I ended up getting 1 10 and 2 7s, and all the rest 9s. So not too bad there, but where'd those 4 sure 10s go? And I know sure 10, right? What are they looking at now? You know, everybody says they're grading harder. Well, I don't think so, but we're going to see.
What exactly are we going to see, Gary? Because you yourself just confirmed that they're grading harder. You thought that you had 9s and 10s, and they came back a lower grade. So let's take a look at what he believes he deserved a higher grade for.
Yes. Okay. Like that one is this one. It was a, oh no, that's a Blastoise PSA 7. Oh, here it is. Okay. This card was encapsulated a PSA 9. And I thought it deserved a 10. It's absolutely flawless. There's, you know, I'm looking at it in person, and it deserves a 10. The only thing that was off was a little bit left to right centering on the front. But I had one of the guys measure those pixels, and it's within the parameters of a 10. So anyway, I tried to have it, I sent it in to have it reviewed, and it turns out they say that it's not, you know, that because of the side-by-side centering, they just wrote that side-by-side arrow again, say this is why it's not. So anyway, I ended up cracking it, and you know, I know it's a 10 quality, and it deserved a 10 because of those centering parameters, but I got a 9. So anyway, that's why I'm sending it back in.
Every card I have is right out of the pack, so you know, how did that get a 7?
That Blastoise looks like it's trying to escape from the left side of the card. It is off center. And that Charizard has horrible edges and corners. Also, Gary admitted to cracking cases and resubmitting cards because he feels like he's entitled to a 10. And this isn't just about his ego. It's also about his wallet. Remember, Gary has made over $1 million selling Pokemon cards this past year to year and a half. Now, before we look over the evidence, the IRS states that tax evasion is whenever someone willfully attempts in any manner to evade or defeat any taxes, including taxes on capital gains. And according to the IRS, Pokemon cards count as capital assets. And whenever you sell a capital asset for more than what you originally paid, the difference counts as capital gains. So if you buy a card for $1 and sell it for $100, you have a capital gain of $99. And remember, Gary made nearly $1 million selling cards through Instagram last year. And we know that he's made well over $250,000 selling to people like Logan Paul and Steve Aoki. Plus, he has thousands of transactions on eBay as a seller. And that's not even counting the transactions through E4. And this is where we start to learn how Gary does his business. See, Gary does all of his transactions through PayPal friends and family, instead of goods and services, which is what he is supposed to be using as a seller. And the reason why he does this is so he can evade paying taxes on his capital gains from the cards that he sells. In addition to saying things like don't pay taxes if possible, the thieving political hacks will just steal and waste it, he tells people that fees to companies like eBay and PayPal are fine. Paying taxes to incompetent state and federal governments is not. Avoid paying taxes as much as possible. And when Gary starts to elaborate, for his reason to distrust the United States government, it boils down to his hatred of quote-unquote illegal aliens, which he even jokes about because he claims that he's not racist because he hates everybody. But let's listen to what Steve Aoki has to say about racism and immigration.
You know, from someone that came from an immigrant family to America and seeing the current state of affairs, it's really disappointing and it's saddening. And every time, you know, my president of the United States, you know, tweets something out that really hampers down on immigration and hampers down on you know, a certain sector of people, you know, it's like a, you know, knife to the heart. You know, it really hurts you.
And I think it's disgusting that someone like him, who claims to be the highest authority in the Pokemon community, to use racism as an excuse to not pay his personal taxes. And if you're wondering, how has Gary been able to go this long without being detected by the IRS? It's because he's been layering the money across 6 different PayPal accounts. And mind you, this is on a thread where people are discussing how PayPal is checking for money laundering. Now, Gary tries to use the excuse that he calls all of his customers friends by stating you're allowed to have friends and they count under friends/family. I signed up for PayPal in 1999 and I've sold to friends thousands of times without any PayPal interference. And he even brags about not paying taxes and fees when he states that he's passing the savings along to the buyer. And here's Gary referring to those friends as his customers.
You know, that's what I love about my customers. Some of them for 20 years, they've been loyal, you know, to me that way.
Remember, Gary has illegally avoided paying taxes on over $1 million in capital gains. Here's what he has to say when he is called out.
Why don't I pay taxes on the hobby? Because for the last 22 years, I have purchased more than I've sold. You know, I hate selling stuff. So you don't have to pay taxes, or you only have to pay taxes on your profits. Well, I never had a profit because I always spent more than I sold. So I do pay my taxes. With my hobbies, though, I'm incorrigible. I don't like to sell anything. So you got to make money on those cards in order to qualify for paying taxes.
Now watch how nervous Gary gets whenever someone asked him about the forms that I posted to report Gary to the IRS. And watch how he intentionally plays dumb to try and twist the story, so he can try and make himself look better.
Okay, the next question, how is it even legal for that guy to post the paperwork to report tax evasion? That's fam for your videos. Good luck. Somebody posted my tax returns, my tax paperwork? Well, I'll tell you what, if they did, they're probably a little jealous.
Now, just for clarification, I never posted Gary's taxes, but I did post links to Form 3949A from the IRS, and this form is used to report people to the IRS for tax evasion, which I encourage you to do so, because if Gary gets busted, you could get a monetary reward. So you can get a nice payout, and Gary could possibly go to jail. So it's a win-win for everyone.
They're telling me to ask you about tax evasion or tax avoidance. Is there anything that you'd like to say about that before?
I heard about that already. There was some other girl on the internet or something that was saying that apparently put up a copy of my tax return or something. All I can say about that is that if that's true and they actually saw my tax return, they're probably a little bit jealous because I mean, I've done pretty good this last 30 years. So now tax evasion, I mean, I am not I have people that take care of that for me. I have a tax attorney. I've had this one for 2 years. I had the one before that for 8 years. It's all above board. I'm not worried about a thing. In fact, you know, this
check behind me that went to the Aoki Foundation for $100,000. I haven't even declared that. So that gives you an idea. I'm not concerned. It just wouldn't matter. My income just isn't enough. And I don't sell enough Pokemon cards to make enough for it to matter. So.
And I don't sell enough Pokemon cards to make enough for it to matter. So.
And I'm retired. And my wife just started working. So if that says anything about taxes, there's nothing to that. That was just some girl who pulled up a thing on the internet, I heard. So yeah,
okay. Yeah. And again, I have I have not researched, and I'm not planning on looking into your taxes. So, so for me, I will just take you at your word on that.
I wonder if Gary's tax attorney knows about the multiple PayPal accounts that Gary layers money across in order to avoid detection by PayPal and the IRS. And I love that Gary claims that he has nothing to worry about, despite his body language showing that he's nervous and stressed out.
So you didn't write it off because you didn't have capital gains to write it off, or you didn't write it off because you didn't care about the money?
I didn't have enough capital gains for that to make a difference.
Okay, because you didn't sell enough. Okay, that
well,
would make
I didn't sell hardly anything, but yeah. I'm retired anyway, and so yeah, that's all that is. It's just a lot of smoke.
Okay. All right, guys, those are the answers for tonight. Thank you again, Gary, for coming on. We'll be in touch again.
Gary uses multiple names, user accounts, and bank accounts to inflate the price of auctions and to layer money in order to avoid detection by the IRS. Gary has been audited at least 2 times already, meaning he has raised more red flags with the IRS than most people. But Gary claims that he got off scot-free, claiming things such as personal collection, trade strategies, and inheritance to excuse his discrepancies with the IRS. And just for clarification, Gary Haase literally used the expression got off scot-free, meaning he knew he was guilty but got away. Gary's arrogance is what blinds him the most. As Gary has stated, has anybody ever heard of a tax problem with the IRS regarding Pokemon? Well, Gare Bear, I have. And one man is facing up to 20 years in prison and up to $250,000 in fines. And it's only a matter of time before the IRS and the FBI shifts a heavy focus from sports cards to Pokemon. And you, Mr. Gary Haase, and your wife, Twan, are going to be in the front of the line, along with Steve Aoki and the Aoki Foundation, Metazoo Games LLC, and Michael Waddell. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. So let's take a look at Steve Aoki and the Aoki Foundation. The Aoki Foundation is a 501c3 private foundation that states their primary goal is supporting organizations in the brain science and research areas, with a specific focus on regenerative medicine and brain preservation. So in short, they collect and raise funds for organizations that align with their mission. The organization received its status in August of 2015. Steve Aoki currently sits as the president and CEO, while Matt Cullen, who is Steve's manager, sits as the secretary. Michael Oppenheim, who is Steve's business manager and founding partner of NKSFB, sits as the foundation treasurer. Now, NKSFB is a business management firm that currently handles the tax records for the Aoki Foundation. Now, the Aoki Foundation website only lists its charitable partners for 2019 and 2020. And at the time of this recording, it does not display the monetary amounts. Also, the tax records for 2019 and 2020 are not available on the IRS's website. But the tax records for 2015 through 2018 are. And when we take a look at those records, there is a clear pattern of suspicious activity for 2016, 2017, and 2018. Now, 2015 is suspicious entirely on its own, because the only thing that we can see in there are legal fees and taxes, despite the fact that they did throw a fundraiser at Dan Bilzerian's house.
So we're here at Dan Bilzerian's house, the man, the Blitz, and he was so kind to give us his house to host the Steve Aoki Charitable Fund big party. We do the big tournament inside. We got this beautiful giraffe out here. We got a lot of amazing people that are donating. money towards brain research, because all the money that we're going to be raising and raising awareness towards is for brain research. So
now I'm not going to show it, but there were also pole dancers at this event. So where at on the 2015 tax return were pole dancers and giraffes. Flash forward to 2016, and Steve Aoki takes a much calmer approach to fundraising.
So this event and the Aoki Foundation is really about, the main thing is about saving the brain. And why brains? Well, the brain itself is, to me, the most important phenomena in the universe.
That is a pretty heartwarming speech. And the event goes on to raise $223,542. But once you take a look at their 2016 tax return, that heartfelt speech starts to feel empty. Because out of the $223,542 that they raised, only $9,500 was used towards charities. And only $3,000 of that entire amount went towards a charitable cause that aligned with their mission statement. So the Aoki Foundation raised nearly $250,000 and only spent 1.3% of it towards brain health charities. Now, their filing also states that they spent $29,931 towards promoting their events. So they're spending way more money to promote the event than they actually are on charitable causes. And mind you, after all of the fees, cost, and donations, they're left with $173,567. Now flash forward to 2017. The Aoki Foundation receives $187,454 in donor contributions. And they spend $216,000 in grants this time. But only $50,000 of that $216,000 is going towards causes that are directly related to mental health. Now, after taxes, fees, and payments towards everything, they're left with $333,141. Also, an excess is considered undistributed income. And in 2018, they received $173,901 in donor contributions, and only spent $20,000 of it towards charities. $10,000 went to the National American Red Cross, and $10,000 went to the Entertainment Industry Foundation, and $0 went towards mental health. And after all of their taxes, fees, and contributions, the Aoki Foundation has $439,106 left over in undistributed income. This means that the Aoki Foundation is taking in a lot of money from donor contributions, and they're barely distributing it out. And when they do, it's rarely going towards the causes that they say it is. For example, let's take a look at the $10,000 donation to the Entertainment Industry Foundation. They state that they're a multifaceted organization that occupies a unique place in the world of philanthropy by mobilizing and leveraging the powerful voice and creative talents of the entertainment industry, as well as cultivating the support of organizations, public and private. In short, they raise money for charities that are ran by people in the entertainment industry. And one of the main foundations that they donate to is Music for Relief, which was founded by Linkin Park, who Steve Aoki has performed with multiple times. And in 2017, the Aoki Foundation donated $6,750 to the Music for Relief Foundation, which, mind you, has nothing to do with mental health. So not only is the Aoki Foundation misappropriating funds, they're also using those funds to further Steve's relationships with those in the entertainment industry. And there are many others, as this isn't Steve's first time doing this. But for now, let's move on to Steve's donation to his own foundation. See, in 2017, Steve Aoki donated $62,000 to his own foundation. And that donation can be carried forward by Steve Aoki on his personal taxes for 5 years. And Steve can even donate money under any of the companies that he owns in order to get that company a tax write-off. See, in 2018, Steve Aoki donated $39,923, not as himself, but underneath his company called DJ Kid Millionaire Touring Incorporated. And this is where things get interesting. So while I was researching DJ Kid Millionaire Touring Incorporated, I found out that they're currently receiving COVID relief funds in the form of the Paycheck Protection Program loan. And as of October 25th, 2021, they have received $71,000. Now, this program was created to help companies retain their employees during the pandemic. And mind you, this is a first come, first served type of program here. There were companies that didn't receive any money from the federal government to keep their employees, while Steve Aoki receives the funds to retain 4 employees. And all 4 employees are Steve Aoki. Now, I find it suspicious that Steve Aoki, who supposedly has a net worth of $120 million, would need to dip into pandemic relief funds from the federal government, especially when he spent $170,000 that same year on a PSA 10 first edition Charizard that he bought from Gary Haase. And what about the Pikachu Illustrator card that he bought for $420,000? By taking that money from the federal government, he stole from businesses that actually needed it. That money could have been used to keep someone's power on, or to keep food on their table, or to put gas in their tank to get to their job or job interview. Instead, he uses it as play money on eBay.
Did I read you spent $10 or $12 million during the pandemic?
Let's just say that I went in heavy, and I had a lot of time, and it just like, it was like I was day and night on eBay. I was on the auctions. I just was like full bore into card collecting. That's the thing during COVID, is that it happened to so many people around the world. Nostalgia.
So this guy spent more money on one Pokemon card from Gary Haase than his entire foundation did towards their actual cause within a 3-year period. But listen to what he has to say next.
And I'm like, well, I have money now. I could actually buy some cards, you know?
And you ramped that up pretty quickly.
I did, because I am also an investor. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be another alternative investment.
And then we made one with the Aoki collection. I know PSA, they decided to give me a whole pedigree with the Aoki collection because I have some grails.
So PSA gave Steve Aoki his own special pedigree for his graded cards. This includes cards pulled for charity events. This allows Steve and Gary to set their own prices for these cards, which they can then say is for charity and use as a tax write-off for up to 5 years. And Steve is planning on generating NFTs for these cards, which Steve can then donate one of those NFTs and use that as a tax write-off as well.
What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be minting NFTs of all my Grail cards.
And I'll say it again, he spent more money on one card from Gary Haase than his charity did towards their actual cause over a 3-year period. But he doesn't care, because he'll say it's for charity, use it as a tax write-off, and get free publicity out of it.
This is the craziest purchase of my life. It's a 9! It's a 9! Can you believe it? I have an Illustrator, the Holy Grail right here, PSA 9. Bro, it's a 9!
Bro, I'm committing charity fraud and tax evasion, but it's a 9!
I want to give it to Gary for now to kind of break down how this all started.
It's an interesting story, actually.
Steve is passing off the responsibility for the cover story to Gary, and Gary is rehearsed and ready to go. Please notice how Gary's eyes nervously look around the room and his body language and tone change.
About 6 months ago, there was a lady, we have an autistic daughter, and she was in therapy, and there was a lady missing, a mother who I hadn't seen in a couple weeks. And so I asked, I said, what happened to Ms. Hernandez? And they said, well, she had to stop, coming with her son, who had been helped so much because of insurance problems, COVID problems, things like that. And so it just broke my heart so much. I thought, it's got to be something we can do about this. And that was the seed. That's where it all started.
Now, if this story is true, that means someone at this center illegally disclosed someone's protected health information, and they broke a federal law called HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And I don't think that this part of the story is necessarily made up, But based on Gary's shitty acting, I think that he's intentionally going out of his way to use this as part of his cover.
And I mean, this was a lady who the very first word she heard from her son was when he was 7 years old, when he said, "Mama," the first words he ever heard, the first words she ever heard from him. And it just broke my heart. And I said, we just can't have this. What can we do about it? So it turned out I was biting off a little bit more than I could chew. I got a whole lot of things together. A lot of things went right. A lot of people got on board, but there's also legal things and, paperwork and, charity issues. And, that's when I was having a discussion with Steve. And Steve said, "Well, listen, Gary, don't worry about it. We're going to put this under my foundation, and that you can do your own thing, but I'm going to put under my foundation." Well, it wasn't long, before I developed a passion for Steve's passion with brain health, and he developed a passion for autism. And so pretty soon, whereas at one time I was under his umbrella, we started holding that umbrella together and became teammates, working for this purpose.
So let me explain what's happening here. Gary is going to operate underneath the Aoki Foundation umbrella, meaning he's going to be able to put on charity events and reap the benefits of a 501c3 nonprofit foundation without ever having to go through the IRS and apply to become a nonprofit charity. And the reason why Steve Aoki is so on board with this is because he gets to claim that he's paying out more money towards charitable efforts that align with his mission statement than what he really is. See, even though Steve Aoki can claim that autism falls underneath his mission statement, both Gary and Steve claim that they're working towards two separate causes.
Well, it wasn't long, before I developed a passion for Steve's passion with brain health, and he developed a passion for autism.
And if you still don't believe me, let's listen to Gary talk about how the money will be distributed from the Aoki Foundation towards his cause.
And 100% of the proceeds are going to the Aoki Foundation. The charities are going to be 1/3 of the dollars raised. This could be close to $1 million. Is going to go for Steve's passion, which is brain health. Another third is going to go to my passion, which is autism and autism treatment for kids. And then the third is going to go towards Chris Camillo's pediatric causes. And so we have 3 charities. They're all going to go through the Aoki Foundation, though, and the foundation is going to disperse the funds to those 3 causes.
So here's how the money typically flows. Gary collects payments and or donations via PayPal, Venmo, and or other services. Gary then transfers the money to his bank account and then writes a check to the Aoki Foundation. This also explains the check in the background of his videos. The Aoki Foundation then cuts Gary a check for his cut of the proceeds.
And so we have 3 charities. They're all going to go through the Aoki Foundation, though, and the foundation is going to disperse the funds to those 3 causes.
And here's a clip of Gary lying about donating money to the Aoki Foundation.
Every single, also whatever money the convention gave me, Collecticon, which was $10,000, they gave me $10,000. I had to make it out to the Aoki Foundation. I'm giving that check to Steve on Saturday. It's going to be filmed and everything. And that was the money I made. I'm giving it all to Steve and the Aoki Foundation. That brings it up to $130,000 I've given Steve and the Aoki Foundation out of Twan's in my pocket.
Now, Gary's lie can be easily debunked, as pictures from Collecticon prove that the check was written out to the Aoki Foundation from the very beginning. Gary was lying about the donation in an attempt to make himself look better. Now, after I called out Gary in the chat of that interview, Gary slips and admits that the check was never written out to him. And once he realizes this, he scrambles to change the subject.
Because every dollar, going all the way back to that poster promotion, those $10 in that, all the way to like this $10,000 check I just got from Collecticon that I'm turning over, it's all going directly in. And the check, I can show you, the check is made out to the Aoki Foundation, not to Gary.
Yeah.
In fact, let me tell you, I accidentally endorsed it on the back, even though it wasn't made out to me. And so that the charity organizer, Britta, she had to find out how they can correct that, because otherwise they would have to reissue. But anyway, everything goes into the Aoki Foundation. If let's say I were to
No, I mean, yes. My partner
Steve
will be right back. He's out cashing a check.
Now let's go over the Aoki Foundation's involvement with Metazoo. Earlier in this video, we discussed how Gary Haase and Steve Aoki have been financially involved with Metazoo since the beginning, and how Michael Waddell has been using donations to the Aoki Foundation and gifts as bribery for their partnership.
You recently seen me hinting about it on my Instagram. I opened up a Kickstarter box, the very first box of this TCG, with the founder Michael Waddell at Aoki's Card House not too long ago. I am proud to say I am a partner in my favorite TCG, Metazoo. I cannot wait to get behind Metazoo and help grow it beyond boundaries.
Now watch how Steve Aoki, Gary Haase, and Michael Waddell use the Aoki Foundation as a platform to manipulate the prices of Metazoo cards on the secondary market.
100 PokeKazam. You guys understand the value of this, which I'm happy about. You understand the value. And this is why you're bidding on the value of what this is. And the futures of what this is. 3750, Jay. And if you believe in Metazoo, I mean, I would just hold this and hold it. It's a grail, guys. It's a grail.
Yes, 6 grand.
I already know that. Justin Thurman, $6,000. Justin Thurman at 6.
Don't stop.
Keep it going. Let's break 10,000. Someone bring it up to 10, 7, 8,000. Come on. Hey. We understand the value of what we're holding in our hands. I still think this is a steal at 10,000. One that will see the light of day.
And the last one that was signed.
The last one, Michael Waddell will sign.
Steve Aoki, who's the founder/owner of the Aoki Foundation, who is also a full equity partner of Metazoo, is personally profiting from what he, Michael Waddell, and Gary Haase are doing on this stream. Michael Waddell, who is the creator of Metazoo, is personally profiting from what they are doing on this stream. Gary Haase, who is financially involved with Metazoo and has an undisclosed position with the company, is personally profiting from what they are doing on this stream. By manipulating the secondary market, they are attracting speculative investors and scalpers, thus guaranteeing future sales. But they are also inflating the prices of their own capital assets, which can later be used as tax write-offs. Or in Gary's case, sold on Instagram. And what many haven't realized about all of this is that Steve and Gary are able to create their own unlimited supply of Metazoo products to be used as tax deductions. As Steve and Gary's position with Metazoo Games LLC gives them a level of authority over others and direct access to printing and supply chains. Now let's go over one of the Metazoo box breaks where Gary lied about how much of the money was going towards charity.
And this is going to help a lot of kids. Let me just say, $35 is all it takes for one therapy session for a family who can't afford it for their child. $35. Your participation here is like 4 therapy sessions.
And what many missed was that only 50% of the proceeds were actually going towards therapy sessions.
Now everybody who purchased a pack, and remember 100%, or I believe it's 50% because of the cost of doing this, 50% is going to be going towards the Foundation for Brain Health and Autism.
So what happened to the remaining 50%? Gary tried to claim that it was to cover the cost of the event. Yet the event took place in his buddy D. Bruce's warehouse, where Mike Waddell conveniently has an office and works out of, and turns out the cards were actually provided by Mike Waddell. So where did the remaining $2,322 go? Better yet, how much of the $4,644 was paid out towards Gary's cause? Gary has been lying about his partnership with Metazoo from day one. And he's been using the Aoki Foundation as well as his YouTube channel and Instagram to pump up the prices of these cards. But let's go over another one of Gary's quote-unquote fundraisers, as the proceeds from this event are going to be benefiting one of Gary's family members, an undisclosed amount is going to be sent to an illustrator of Metazoo, and an undisclosed amount will be sent to a charity. Now, Gary's wife, Tuan, said that her nephew didn't even ask for help. And remember, Gary made nearly $1 million selling Pokemon cards through Instagram last year. So why are they using proceeds from this charitable event to send to their family member who didn't even ask for help in the first place? This is just another example of the Aoki Foundation misappropriating funds. But let's listen to what Gary has to say.
I only mentioned one of the things, which was to Chris, whose family got displaced because of flooding, and so we sent him. I don't want to give the dollar amounts, but the total for these three things is the full $2,700. We're paying the shipping and everything. All the money's going to these three causes, and so Chris, I mentioned yesterday, who is an artist who has drawn some amazing. He did that Satoshi Tajiri artwork, for our charity that we auctioned off. So anyway, communities take care of each other. He's taking care of us. He's taking care of the autistic kids. We're taking care of him. I mean, isn't that the way it's supposed to work? And haters need not apply. Okay. Anytime I see hate, I just get rid of it because in my lifetime, I've seen too much of it as counterproductive. And so, anyway, the other two, before I forget, the other two causes that we are going to be supporting, one was I can say this, a $500 thing for follow-up surgery treatment for one of Tuan's autism instructs, people in Vietnam. So some follow-up work. And then we're giving the other big bulk of the money to, it's an orphanage in Saigon, Vietnam, or Ho Chi Minh City. They changed the name after the war from Saigon to Ho Chi Minh City. And so.
Now, I'm not here to discuss Chris's situation, but I am here to discuss why Gary, who is an employee of the Aoki Foundation, is misappropriating funds and is refusing to disclose how much of the money will be going towards his friend Chris. Also, why is Gary referring to his nephew as one of Tuan's people and not as his nephew?
One of Tuan's autism instructs, people in Vietnam.
One of Tuan's autism instructs, people in Vietnam.
Is it because Gary is trying to hide where the money is really going, or because he's a racist piece of crap? Remember, Gary isn't racist because he hates everyone.
And haters need not apply, okay? Anytime I see hate, I just get rid of it because, in my lifetime, I've seen too much of it as counterproductive.
But the reason why Gary will not reveal the amount of money that was donated to that orphanage is because you're able to figure out how much money that they gave to their friend/business partner, Chris.
I don't want to give the dollar amounts, but the total for these three things is the full $2,700. We're paying the shipping and everything. All the money's going to these three causes.
Let's move on to Gary's NFT scams. So let's start off with Gary's first NFT. Gary slips and states that only a majority of the proceeds will be going to charity, but never specifies which charities and the exact percentage or amount.
I am involved in NFTs, but of course the majority is for charity.
And when Gary was asked about how the proceeds will be used to help children around the world, Gary changes the subject and even starts talking about plans for a second NFT.
And so, if you just let people know what will happen with that money, right? What sort of benefits that will bring to, kids around the world.
Sure. Well, like almost everything else I do, now in my later years has to do with the foundation. Steve Aoki and I, we work really hard on our charity work. And we're, we just do, we're running big events. In fact, one of those big events are going to have something to do with an NFT with another one of my NFTs down the road. So, and that's going to be a month. It's probably going to be the event of the decade.
And just to clarify, Gary is talking about the October 9th, 2021 event.
It's going to be, I don't know if I should say it, but I'm going to say it. We're going to be opening a first edition base box and giving 100% of the money to the Aoki Foundation. We're also going to be having a DJ that all you guys know. It's just going to be incredible. I've already been contacted by newspapers all around the country, for information on this. Anyway, this is going to be a Pokemon event. This is going to have an NFT connected to it that's going to be, probably major for this one for my rookie NFT.
And not only is he talking about using an NFT for the October 9th event, but he's planning on using this second NFT to pump up the price of his first NFT.
I have two things planned this year that are going to knock your socks off, with NFTs. And it just might help what this rookie NFT is worth. Maybe, we can all make some money on that too.
And Gary is going to use his company to create that second NFT.
Steve has said he wants to do it, but I can't get him to hook me up with his NFT people yet. What it is, it's me, Logan Paul. I can show you my text with Logan. He totally approves this, and he wants nothing out of it. I told Logan that Steve, wants you to take a third because he wants to get his promotion in and all that too. Okay, the last thing was because I told him that I was out with Steve Aoki today, and he agreed you should get a third of the NFT proceeds, since it really is the three of us, and I'll keep you posted. Do you have time for this? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that would be successful enough where I could make a few bucks and put it into a trust for his little sister, for Akira.
And that, my slow bros and ho-ohs, is what Gary is referring to when he's talking about money going towards autism and autism treatment. And the whole thing feels like a play out of the Logan Paul Steve Aoki scam book. Also, here's Gary's reaction when I call him out for it during the Pokenomics podcast in the chat.
Some people are saying he's using money that he claims is for charity and placing it in his daughter's trust fund.
Okay, can I answer that one?
Yeah, and he says this person says that they have proof.
Okay, let me explain that one because that is something I'm fully aware of. There's an NFT that I announced on some channel or something where Steve Aoki, Logan Paul, and me, we're going to have an NFT. We're going to create an NFT for showing. Well, I don't want to say what it shows, but it shows something related to Pokemon. And Steve said he wanted Logan. This is kind of a scoop. Steve said he wanted Logan to take his share of the NFT, the third of whatever money was brought in. And Logan said no. Logan said he didn't want it. He said, I want you to put it in a trust fund for Akira, because he knows my daughter, Akira. He said, I want you to take my share of whatever that produces and put it into a trust fund for little Akira in that. And Steve and I and Logan ended up not doing that thing, right? So because the NFT, I just don't understand that stuff enough, right? And so we ended up not doing it, didn't have full cooperation. Steve wanted Logan to have to promote it heavily because he had a financial interest and all that. He didn't think Steve would promote it or Logan would promote it. And anyway, that thing they're talking about is that. It never occurred. It never happened. It was discussed. And talk about turning a positive into a negative. Logan wanted my little girl to have that money, right? Whatever he would get, whatever share was. And yet somebody picked that out and made it sound like what you read. So that's the truth of it. That's it. So there you go.
So Gary thinks that charity fraud and misappropriating funds is a positive thing. But let's get back to the October 9th scam. On September 2nd, Gary announces on his Instagram that the October 9th event is going to be called Pokemon Saves the World.
Pokemon Saves the World. That's the name of the event. Pokemon Saves the World.
And spoiler alert, it was a complete disaster and could possibly turn into a lawsuit and criminal investigation for dumb money, Steve Aoki, Gary Haase, and Golden Auction. To understand why, let's go through the details. So on July 24th, Gary posted a video on YouTube stating that the first edition base set booster box and the shadowless base set booster box were inspected and had a light pack taken out of each box, but does not disclose what a light pack means.
Shadowless box. These have shadowless packs inside. For sure, it was opened. A light pack was taken out, and sure enough, it had shadowless cards. This is a shadowless box, 35 packs. Still has all 12 holofoils, at least should. That's the norm. And then here's the Big Daddy. This is the first edition base box. Also, this is an iconic box. This is the one that was replaced by that fake one by Dumb Money. And this is going to be, this was the replacement box. It was opened up. One pack was taken out, a light one, and checked. And of course, they were all first edition. This is 35 first edition packs with 12 holofoils inside that.
Nor does he disclose that Collectibles Guru, who is the same guy that tried to sell Dumb Money a fake first edition base set booster box, was the same guy that inspected the replacement box and weighed all the packs. By the way, watch how he digs his thumb into this pack. And this is why documenting the weight of each pack, as well as the wrapper and any kind of imperfections, is extremely important. Gary goes on to state that the event could raise close to $1 million, and that the funds will go through the Aoki Foundation, which then the Aoki Foundation will keep 1/3 of the proceeds and distribute 1/3 to Gary's passion, while the remaining third will go to Chris Camello's pediatric causes.
The charities are going to be 1/3 of the dollars raised. This could be close to $1 million. Is going to go for Steve's passion, which is brain health. Another third is going to go to my passion, which is autism and autism treatment for kids. And then the third is going to go towards Chris Camillo's pediatric causes. And so we have 3 charities. They're all going to go through the Aoki Foundation, though, and the foundation is going to disperse the funds to those 3 causes.
And 40 days later, Gary goes live on Instagram stating that the event is going to be called Pokemon Saves the World, and is now claiming that all of the packs are unweighed.
They're all unweighed. It's a first edition, unweighed first edition base pack. It's an unweighed shadowless pack, and it's an unweighed unlimited pack, all 3.
Gary even goes inside of the Toro Center for Autism while live streaming and goes in the back where parents can observe their children receiving therapy. Now, luckily, I didn't see anyone else besides his daughter during this live stream, but the fact that he's willing to live stream anyone receiving therapy without their consent just so he can peddle this scam is gross and illegal. And I don't know what's worse, the fact that he's willing to do it or the fact that no one was at the desk watching the door, so anyone could have walked in there with any intent. But again, Gary states that the packs are unweighed and fresh out of boxes.
If they don't want to open it, then we'll open the packs for them. But I mean, who's not going to want to open up a first edition base pack? All fresh out of boxes, all obviously unweighed, fresh out of boxes stuff.
He even gives a twist to his usual "please pay for my daughter's trust fund" /treatment speech.
$35 to get a therapy session like what my daughter's doing right now inside this autism center. You can change a life, and in turn, you can change the world. Pokemon saves the world. Let's see.
And what I'm about to play is Gary setting up plausible deniability for information that was listed in the auction listings.
And you can go to my link, to the link in my profile here on Instagram, and it'll take you to the auctions, to the golden auctions, and it'll give you a little more in detail information than what I'm giving here, I think. So yeah, go on there and you'll be able to see.
The reason why is that the listing for each lot states that all packs are from sealed boxes and mentions nothing about the first edition box being opened up and the packs being weighed, nor does it state anything at all about the shadowless box. The listing does state that the first edition base set box was inspected, but does not explain what inspected means or entailed. And at the very bottom of each listing, it states that the first edition box has been inspected and verified as authentic. You can watch the process and the inspection of the box here. Now that link does go to the same Dumb Money video, but you now have to sit through a 48-minute long video in order to find out the real details about the auction listing, and that's hoping that you don't miss those parts. So these crooks are intentionally lying inside of auction listings because they know that people wouldn't touch those packs with a 10-foot pole. And if you're wondering how much money they made off of this scam, all 3 boxes went for less than $500,000, $423,210 to be exact. Oh, and I almost forgot, Gary is now claiming that NFTs will not be a part of the event.
So, okay, 2 questions. It's been sent. I want your NFTs. Yeah, this time has nothing to do with NFTs. So this is just all a charity fundraiser, nothing to do with NFTs. All right. Let's see. Any other questions?
But let's jump ahead to the day of the event. Dumb Money is live streaming, and they've titled the stream $1 million Pokemon Box Break. which is a lie because all 3 boxes together couldn't even break $500,000. But the title and thumbnail is revealing of how everyone involved really sees Pokemon and this entire event. But the event starts off with a comedian that made fun of emotional support animals and people who need them.
Yeah, they say emotional support animals are these pets people can get, like dogs and cats, that are supposed to eliminate depression and anxiety, but they don't eliminate depression and anxiety. They just delay those effects for about 10 to 12 years.
The guy made fun of transgender people, vaccines and autism, laughing at sick kids, religion, and brought politics into the entire thing.
I mean, obviously, Caitlyn Jenner is a hero. I mean, clearly she is an X-Man. Yeah. Yeah, what happens when Rogue touches her? Does she A, become a man? I don't know. Yeah, some of you aren't laughing. And that's how I know who the anti-vaxxers are in this establishment. You know, they're all like, oh, I can't vaccinate because of COVID. You know, and I don't believe in it. And then Jesus told me not to. It's about Christianity. You know, Christianity will keep me safe. Jesus told me not to get vaccinated. And I was like, what? Is Christianity even real? And I would just like to let all the anti-vaxxers in the trailer park know that actually medicine is the best medicine. Just know if you see us laughing at your child later, just know we are only trying to help. All right? We're only trying to help. And look, I get it, all right? I empathize with the anti-vaxxer movement, okay? Because if you vaccinate your child, then he doesn't get his letter to Hogwarts.
Remember, this guy was picked out by Gary Haase for this event, where the proceeds are supposedly going towards autism and autism treatment, brain health, and pediatric causes.
He's the one guy that can actually make me laugh.
And Dumb Money's response is to just clip it out of the video like it never happened. And Jason Page is still coming down from whatever the hell he took at Burning Man.
Pokemon save the world. Come on.
Gotta catch 'em
It's you and me. I know it's my destiny, Pokemon. Oh, yo, DJ Kennedy, turn that shit off. Pokemon,
Gotta catch 'em
it's you and me. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon. Fuck that, we don't need no track. Bring me Pokemon. Well, thank you, Steve, wherever you are, for putting this together. Thank you, Gary.
Oh, and they sold the data of everyone that attended the event to New Street.
And by attending this event, you're volunteering to help us out with that, participate, give feedback on what that thing is.
But hey, they all got an exclusive NFT from New Street that they didn't even ask for.
Now, another very, very important part of the New Street Research Report is that at the back of the package, you will see a card. That card is a New Street NFT that you have now received.
But so much for not having NFTs involved with this event. And a single pack of cards hasn't even been opened yet. But then we find out that Golden Auctions opened all 3 boxes, weighed all the packs, and then filled 35 bags with 1 pack of each base set variation. So 1 unlimited, 1 shadowless, and 1 first edition pack.
We are going to go over the process for picking the 35 slots in the order, because obviously some slots are better than others based on whether or not you get those heavy packs.
Because obviously some slots are better than others based on whether or not you get those heavy packs.
Remember, these were supposed to be unweighed packs from sealed boxes.
All fresh out of boxes, all obviously unweighed, fresh out of boxes stuff.
And now your chances of receiving a holo from any of these boxes is controlled by those running the event. And they stated that it was to ensure that everyone had a fair chance. Well, based on what Gary previously claimed and what the auction listings stated, wouldn't there have already been a fair chance? And they even have the 3 empty boxes on stage to give the appearance that they're pulling packs from these boxes, when they're actually being served up in baggies and bubble mailers from the back. It's almost like they're afraid that someone will find out that they rigged the packs and committed auction fraud. Now, Golden Auctions did a drawing to randomly assign each lot of packs to each entry. And during that drawing, we find out that someone who goes by Garrison G had won 8 out of 35 entries.
All right, number 16, 17, and 18 is going to be Garrison G. Man, Garrison's going to get some good stuff. It's Gary. This is Garrison G, 16, 17, 18.
Is it Garrison M too, right?
I don't know. I think it's but this is 16, 17, 18. So that one's 16. Okay, so I got to do one more. I don't think so. All right. Number 20, Garrison G. There's a lot. I think there's like 8. It's the same person. All right, number 22 is going to be Garrison G again. Most popular in this. Okay, spot 22 for Garrison G is going to be number 1. Number 1.
Garrison G?
Would Garrison G come to the stage, please?
Garrison G's not here. He's the 8 that's not here.
Oh, Garrison G is not here? Oh,
Now, according to Gary's advertisement, him and Steve Aoki were supposed to open your packs if you were not able to come on stage.
If they come to the event, they're invited as a VIP. They'll be able to open all 3 of their packs on stage with Steve, Chris, and I. And if they don't want to open it, then we'll open the packs for them. But I mean, who's not going to want to open up a first edition base pack? All fresh out of boxes, all obviously unweighed, fresh out of boxes stuff.
Instead, Gary is trying to turn this whole thing into his own variety show, and is having people from financial advice channels and Pokemon YouTube channels open the packs for him. And mind you, most of these people didn't even buy packs. Some of which appear to have never opened a pack before and are mishandling the cards. And being that people paid thousands of dollars for these packs, you would think that Gary would at least give those that bought packs a decent shout out. But no. He is rushing through this entire thing, and sometimes not even announcing whose pack they're opening. Now, most of Garrison G's packs were opened first, and 3 out of 7 unlimited packs had holographic rares, one of which was a Charizard. Then 4 out of 7 Shadowless packs contained holographic rares, and 2 out of 7 first edition packs contained a holographic rare. And we don't see another first edition holographic rare until 8 first edition packs later, which conveniently belong to SM Pratt. And throughout this entire event, we're seeing a pattern of the same trainers and non-holo rares being pulled back to back. But let's take a look at SM Pratt's packs as an example. And by the way, Scott's friend Merps is opening the packs for him. So for his unlimited packs, Scott gets an Imposter Professor Oak, a Poliwrath, and 2 Clefairy dolls. For Shadowless, he pulls a Hitmonchan, a Magneton, and 2 Electabuzzes. For first edition, he pulls a Pokemon Breeder, a Blastoise, and 2 Pidgeotos. There's also a pattern of rares from separate print runs being pulled back to back or just within a few packs. But let's look at more than just 2 Beedrills. Let's take a look at Gary's packs. Not only does Gary pull 2 computer searches from Base Set Unlimited, but he also pulls Clefairies from Shadowless and First Edition. And Gary also pulls a holographic Ninetales from all 3 print runs. And he also gets a Base Set Unlimited Charizard and a Base Set Unlimited Chansey, but not a Base Set Unlimited Clefairy, which makes me wonder if he messed up whatever he did and had the intention to get a full set of Clefairies or a full set of Chanseys. Now, I believe the old saying goes, once it's a Chansey, twice it's a coincidence, and 3 times it's a pattern. Something is seriously wrong with these packs, and even Steve Aoki is questioning the pull rates.
I know.
15 with only 3 holos?
Oh my god.
Oh wait, can you bring your cards?
15
There's 15, right? 15.
Yeah, there's 20 packs left.
Let's make sure when
Yeah.
people do their own cards, we'll give it to them, and they can handle it and bring
Yeah,
them over.
Because it's like, let's see, 15. That means.
Yeah, 20 packs
Well,
left.
there's less because you took off one of the light ones,
Yeah,
right?
there's 12 hollows,
Yeah.
so there's 9 hollows left in the 20 packs.
Yeah. Is it certainly 12, or is it like an
Well,
average?
11,
kind
12,
of
13.
average,
It could be, but let's say 12.
It's like I think it's easier to get a Charizard than get 9 holes.
Oh, Brad, I'm sorry, man.
No, that's all
Yeah,
good.
that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Always a pleasure, though.
Whose pack are you opening?
I'm opening the pack.
Garrison G. Wow. Garrison got a Charizard, right?
Golden Auctions claimed that these packs were randomly assigned, so why are we seeing this many back-to-back duplicate rares? And why are those closest to Gary pulling rarer cards? Halfway through the live stream, Super Duper Danny pulls a shadowless Charizard. But she, Tuan, and Gary somehow claimed it was the first Charizard that they pulled.
So word on the street is no one's pulled the Charizard yet.
Nobody.
that's true.
You're gonna do it right now.
Oh.
You're gonna do it right now.
Right. All right, here we go. So this is for Justin? I mean, who's this?
This is
for Justin Thurman.
Justin
All right,
Thurman.
Justin.
Thurman. Here we go.
Energy.
Here we go.
Another energy.
Did they already forget about Gary's new Charizard? At one point during the live stream, cards start to go missing. And before we go over the clips, I need to highlight 3 things. 1, Gary brings Ellis Madalena and his son Devin Hayes on stage to open packs, but does not disclose that the booster packs actually belong to Anthony Delgado. Instead, the 3 are acting as if Ellis owns the booster packs, at least until Devin says something. 2, the first edition Alakazam, Shadowless Chansey, and some other cards that belong to Anthony Delgado never leave the stage, despite Gary and Devin handing over the rest of Anthony's cards. And 3, Gary lies to Chris Camello about the missing cards and intentionally swaps out the first edition Alakazam.
Yeah, Staryu, Voltorb, Vulpix, Pidgey, Bulbasaur, Energy, Chansey! Shadowless Chansey.
Oh, I'm gonna let you sleeve that real fast.
That's nice.
That's a big hit.
That's nice.
That's the lowest pop Shadowless I believe there is. The lowest pop.
Get that graded.
Is Pokemon Prince here?
Get that graded.
Pokemon Prince, Devin. Is Devin here yet? He flew in from New York. Oh, tell him to come here. Devin, come here. And he'll watch you with the last one. He was.
We'll finish
Nice
up
one,
this
man.
pack real quick. We have Super Potion,
Devin, come
Full Heal, and Machamp. Choke.
Let's get that Chansey PSA ASAP. Yo, what up, man? What's up, bud? How you doing?
All right, so what are we doing?
Yeah, so this is my son. Oh, this is one of my sons. This is Devin, Pokemon Prince, and best friends with Ellis Madalena here. They chat, talk every single day, and they love each other, and we certainly love them. And, so I wanted him to be here with you when you open this one.
I couldn't be happier to have
All
him.
right, great.
All right, so how are we doing this? We're about to open a Charizard, dude.
Let's do this.
All right, I'll open it. You reveal the cards. You
Okay.
down?
All right.
All
Open
right.
it. I'll reveal the cards. Like announce each one.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the first edition pack. Oh.
First edition base.
This is gonna be a hollow. It's gonna be a hollow.
Hold on, how many hollows are we in?
3.
Rich in hollows. We're rich
Okay.
in hollows.
Yeah, it's dense.
All right, Devin.
All
Let's
right.
you. Make sure you put him right here.
Hold up. So you want? Okay. So you're gonna announce them?
Sure.
Okay. So.
We have an Energy,
What's the pack tree?
Just do it. Yeah, just do it.
Diglett, Staryu, Energy, Caterpie, Switch, Vulpix, Alakazam!
So these guys are intentionally making it appear as some sort of spectacular event, where the world's biggest Alakazam fan magically pulls a first edition base set Alakazam.
I don't know if any of you guys know this, but I do have the most complete Alakazam collection, Abracadabra, and Alakazam collection in the world. So it only makes sense that I pull the Alakazam.
He's all over me to get all my rare Alakazam stuff. Biggest Alakazam collector in the world. And what gets pulled? Boom. Great.
That's funny to say it.
At CollectorCon, you wanted an Abra, and you got an Abra.
Looks really good.
Wow.
Whose pack was this?
I have a couple more cards.
Oh, okay.
I believe Anthony Delgado.
Gary sleeves the first edition Alakazam and places it inside of the Ziploc bag that has the Shadowless Chansey.
Steve, that's nice, huh? For the
Yeah.
Shadows in the first edition.
Oh yeah, that's like.
Chansey's a monster in Shadowless.
Yeah, that might be the biggest one.
Gary places the Alakazam inside of the same bag as Chansey and places the bag on the counter. At this point, Ellis Madalena walks off stage. As you can see, the bag is still on the counter, and what appears to be a holographic Chansey is still inside of the bag. Gary then hands one of the two stacks of cards that belong to Anthony Delgado to Devin. Gary then removes the first edition Alakazam and the Shadowless Chansey from the Ziploc bag. At that point, Devin takes the Chansey and removes it from its sleeve.
Where's Mike?
Okay, I guess we have one now. Michael Hummel.
Whoa, this is clean.
Hey, no patch scratches on it?
Thank you.
Oh, there's two print
You're a
lines.
legend. Along with Gary. Gary's a legend as well.
Well, thank you, sir.
Shadowless
you.
Chansey has two print lines.
Yes.
These cards are right here.
I got to get over.
Now, Devin appears to have placed the Chansey back inside of the Ziploc bag. Then he starts to sleeve up the stack of cards that his dad had handed him. Now, unless Devin or Gary has done some sort of sleight of hand, we can assume that the cards are still on the counter. And I'm going to go ahead and let the rest of this one play out in its entirety for non-repudiation purposes.
Well, your dad is the best, and we appreciate him a lot. And thank you for coming out to help us out with this.
No problem, no problem. All right, how's the best way to open these? There we go.
Gary, can you call Zach Brown?
All right, here we go.
Zach Brown. Come to the stage, please.
Good. Potion. Duo. Weedle.
Energy.
Alakazam
again.
Hey,
okay.
Not bad. Not bad to start. Magmar. Energy and Growlithe.
Very good.
All right, good start, good start. Pass these over here.
Uh-huh.
Another one of these. Hollow to start, not bad. Okay. Open, who's the first one in the next pack? Abra. Hey. Could get the whole collection.
Abra. Now we need Kadabra.
Yeah. Ponyta. Magnemite. Nidoran. Energy.
Okay,
Trainer.
Pokemon breeder.
Charmeleon, I'll take it.
Or trader.
Marcho. Yep. Pokemon trainer. Passes over to you. Last one of these.
This came out of the Alakazam. Ellis just opened.
Oh, okay, so give that.
Ellis, I gotta put back all his in
Caterpie.
This goes to this.
Ellis's.
Trainer.
Leave.
Bulbasaur, nice.
You better
Squirtle,
take those.
nice.
Let's go
Back
with
to back.
Alakazam.
That was
Drowsy.
his pack, so it should be able to
Energy.
They may.
Energy.
No, they may have.
Ninetail.
I kept them all separate.
Okay.
These are all his. Everything over there. So they must have
Farfetch'd
taken
and
it down
Super
already.
Okay, 2 for 3. 2 for 3, not bad. All right, Shadowless next.
Okay, this one you can do.
It'll open. The main challenge is opening the pack.
Where are the rest of Ellis cards?
Oh, he may have taken it with him.
Oh, but he
Or
was just a stand-in.
I don't know. Okay, so.
So Ellis was a stand-in. Oh, Anthony D, right here. That's
You can open this pack, Steve?
So there, but there's.
It doesn't want to open it.
These are
Okay, yeah.
So are these, is this whole pack right here?
Oh, okay. That's the trick. I should have used the knife. Really? Okay.
Okay, this is your third
That
pack.
long as we don't want to get this confused. We're missing his cards.
Well, these are unlimited.
Yeah, those ones are the ones I just opened.
These are the ones you just opened.
Yeah.
Do it?
No,
I
you
kept
got
them
it.
separate. I kept everything that didn't belong with the last one.
Okay, but there should this is running them. There should be more cards than this though.
Oh, okay. So then it has to be that.
It
has to be. But this.
Let's go.
Is this part of that? This is the.
Is this unlimited or?
Unlimited.
Yep, it's Shadowless.
Shadowless? Oh, sorry.
Item Finder. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we need to get those taken right off the stage.
So you can just use this.
Okay, sweet.
If it's harder.
Yeah, open.
That has to be part of this one.
You know what that card is right there?
Yeah, he pulled an Alakazam.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep his together.
Yes.
So that means
Everything else should leave the stage. So.
All right, Pikachu, not bad.
And that was
Okay.
this guy's
Potion.
Anthony W. Okay.
Duo. Weedle.
So let's add.
Charmander, not bad. Energy. De-evolution spray.
Chris, sorry.
Seal and Kakuna.
How about those? What's that?
Alright. Not good, those first two. Alright, last Shadowless.
Last Shadowless.
No hollows so
And
far
from
on
this
those.
point on, you should probably take those down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go down.
Poliwag.
Oh, here, this is.
Energy removal. Abra. Machop.
What's that?
Pidgey. Energy. Last one. Dragonair. No hollows from Shadowless.
So Gary had both hollows on the table the entire time, and right in front of him. And when asked if those were Anthony's cards, Gary lied and said no. When asked where the cards were, Gary lies and tries to claim that Ellis probably took them, or that they're probably off stage. And then he claims that he just doesn't know. When pressed, he swaps the first edition Alakazam for an unlimited Alakazam, which was somehow pulled back to back. But then Devin calls him out on it, and Gary keeps saying that the cards need to leave the stage. Which, this is his way of saying go away, and had they actually done it, Gary could claim that someone else messed with those cards and not him. But regardless of his reason, there's enough evidence from that video alone to label what he did as attempted theft. And who knows how many other times Gary did this during the same live stream or during other events and got away with it. And Chris Camillo had been getting after Gary about how he was handling the cards the entire time.
I know.
15 with only 3 hollows?
Oh my god.
Oh wait, can you bring your cards?
15 there.
The 15, right? 15.
Yeah, there's 20 packs left.
Let's make sure when
Yeah.
people do their own cards, we'll give it to them. They can handle it and bring
Yeah,
them over.
Because it's like, let's see, 15, that means...
But Gary is rushing this entire event and is even trying to cut open the packs before people can get on stage.
Was pre-open.
I snipped it
Thanks.
for you to make it easy for us.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it.
Gary, maybe let them snip it even on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Just people get
Right.
fancy and you don't do it in front.
Yeah. Most can open them anyway.
Yeah.
And Gary's company, ASG, has been in the back the entire time, peddling their scam. And despite their efforts to hide Gary's association and partial ownership of the company after I exposed them, they admit that Gary is their co-founder.
We got Gary on board. That's the first person we reached out to, and he's kind of like a co-founder.
But it's not like they lied about his position with the company on their website or in any official document, right? Oh wait, they did. Also, before ASG even had a website or a working proof of concept, They were already creating their own cryptocurrency before anything else, which Gary instantly got access to over 20% of once it was set up. And they're setting up a decentralized banking platform and market that'll be used for tax evasion. But what they didn't tell everyone is that their app and servers are collecting information about their users. This information includes, but is not limited to, your IP address, operating system, device details, wallet information, collectibles that you own, and transaction details. After all, this whole app is designed around their cryptocurrency and you submitting your information about your collectibles. So they're able to tie ownership and transaction details back to each user, and serial numbers on slabs can be cross-referenced with eBay, PSA, BGS, and other platforms.
Can, at home, grade their cards. It goes into a database. They also can input what card it is, what year it is. That's going to give them collector points.
And you're rewarded for basically contributing data.
Okay. And then other people...
So you're not monetizing it, but you're monetizing as far as getting the input.
The data. The data. That's the most important thing for us right now. We want to be able to create an open source database of every single collectible in the world.
Yeah.
And we won't be able to do it ourselves. It'll take... If we would ever hire a team of 1,000 people constantly, inputting the data...
No chance.
It's not going to happen.
No.
The only way we can do it is open source it, and there's nothing like that. So we would have people upload the whole collection, right, and then other people will also earn collector points verifying that information.
Right.
So in an ironic way, they're going to be a goldmine of data for the IRS and FBI. Also, you can totally lie about your collection, turn around, create a second account, and then verify that false information. And they've been using software and hardware that they don't even own the rights to. They simply just threw it inside of a case, slapped some stickers on it, and called it theirs. And these sensors are prone to errors based on environmental conditions, such as changes in lighting and deformation due to temperature. So imagine getting a lower grade because somebody lowered a thermostat or opened some curtains.
We're going to be releasing a really cool NFT in a month. We have a cryptocurrency that powers AGS. It's called Collective Math.
So Gary Haase' company is advertising their services, their NFTs, and cryptocurrency during what is supposed to be a charity event. Oh, and they're trying to raise $10 million to take on PSA and BGS.
So at this point, what do you guys need exactly?
Well, we're raising funds. We raised 1.5, we're trying to raise 10. We raised $10 million, we're going to take on PSA and BGS. Like, we're going to take it to the curb.
Yeah, that's not convincing at all. I think these guys and Gary are fully aware that they're more than likely going to be dissolved into a much larger grading company and just sell off whatever intellectual property that they actually have the rights to once the scam is over.
If it's AI and not human hands, there's less of a mistake, right?
Whether it's a result of bad engineering, bad data, or just insufficient data, most forms of AI that handle dynamic situations or variables tend to make egregious errors, especially in their early stages. And some of these errors have cost people millions and even their lives. But this entire moment is staged as part of a business deal.
Real quick presentation. A friend's coming up. Give you something.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, come on up.
Okay.
Come on up.
Hey, Steve.
Alexander Fung is a friend of ours from iPhone Elite, and he's just bringing something up for a present up for Steve. And it's pretty tremendous stuff. It's stuff Steve loves. So I wanted to make sure he got it on the live stream.
But you're always traveling in the event, so I figured that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't know. You have this one.
I don't have that one.
And then this one's a pink one.
I don't have that.
I know you have a yellow.
Yeah.
Show it. Show it real fast. Is that okay, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah. Show it real fast.
That's dope. That's really cool.
The tension bearer came out.
Which
cost?
Yeah.
1,000%.
Oh, okay.
The only in Japan?
Yeah.
I don't know if you got that one.
I don't have that one, no.
So,
but I figured this is awesome. This is a
and I
good
had
cause.
brought
Thank you so much, man.
There we go.
Appreciate that.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you also. All right. Good to see you.
Wow.
Okay.
That's really
We'll
cool.
see you. Okay, let's go.
This is the GOAT right here, Muhammad Ali.
Gary is treating this entire event like it's a birthday party for him and Steve Aoki. In the meantime, Gary has this guy come on stage to give Steve Aoki nearly $1,200 in quote-unquote gifts, and their buddy in the middle is hooking Gary's wife up with free Yeezys. And according to Gary's wife, she loves to mix business with pleasure. And what kind of business is that? Well, It's Gare Bear selling him a base set unlimited box. But the Gare Bear Variety Hour doesn't stop there. See, towards the end of the night, a third Charizard gets pulled. And it's another Shadowless Charizard. And one of Gary's longtime friends, customers, is the one that pulls it.
And a longtime friend of mine. All right.
Done a lot of business with Gary over the years.
Oh, we sure have. Yes. Energy.
Energy.
Here it comes.
Energy.
Here it is. Oh, another Shadowless Charizard.
Yeah. Oh. Do you have a card saver?
Only you and Super Duper Danny. You and Super Duper Danny pulled Shadowless Green Wing Charizards. Hello.
And I gotta say, Old School Pokemon and I are partners on this.
All right. So all right. Yeah. Not bad. You just stay there, Nick. You just stay there.
We have 3 Charizards to open up, so let's do it.
Now, the night ends with a video that Gary and Collecticon paid to produce. And Gary is already trying to walk back on statements that he made in the video. Now, one of the statements that Gary is not trying to walk back on is the fact that he and Eddie Brenneschultz were trying to pump the price of Pokemon cards using grading. But let's listen to Gary lie about the reason why they were trying to pump the price.
A friend of mine and I, his name was Eddie Brenneschultz, E-Birdman. Him and I had a decision to make when Pokemon started to tail off a little bit in 2002, 2003. We had discussions every night for hours trying to figure out what we could do to get the hobby kicked off again. We decided on grading, and so we went with PSA.
But what Gary fails to mention during this interview is that he and Edward Brenneschultz were already grading Pokemon cards in 1999 and selling them to the Home Shopping Network.
For me, it started in the very beginning of the English release, which was 1999. I was involved in bringing the Japanese Pokemon to this country.
How were you involved?
Well, I was involved by getting the Japanese CD promo cards brought here, graded by professional sports authenticators, and then put on our TV in this country, the Home Shopping Network.
But what Gary never reveals is that he didn't work for the Home Shopping Network or for PSA, nor Pokemon. But just like everything else that Gary Haase does, this entire event was a complete scam. And Gary Haase, Steve Aoki, the Aoki Foundation, Metazoo Games LLC, Michael Waddell, and yes, even Dumb Money need to be investigated by the IRS and the FBI. These guys need to be investigated now because Gary is already misappropriating the funds, as he donated $10,000 to one of his buddies' business. Joe is just a normal optometrist that works at a family eye care clinic. But he's one of Gary's buddies and has been in multiple videos with Gary and supported Gary's box breaks, as well as Metazoo. In fact, he's a heavy supporter of Metazoo. And Gary tries to justify the donation because Joe's a great collector, a part of their community, and has patients that have autism. But according to Gary, it's autism treatment. So other than eye exams, what is Joe doing to treat autistic people? Because unless he's running some sort of illegal operation in the back, the answer is nothing. This is another case of Gary using charity funds to line the pockets of one of his buddies. And based on Gary's loose interpretation of what autism treatment is, Gary could use charity funds for his own personal shopping spree.
Anyway, once again, yeah, she can come here. Once again, we all want to thank you. Little Akira wants toy, always want toy. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Toy machine, please.
This is the Akira Crissell Hayes.
Toy machine.
Who is the face of our autism, side of the charity. She's the face and she loves toys, and so we got to figure out something for that.
Okay, thank you, guys.
So anyway, thank you, guys.
So Gary's holding his daughter by the throat while he's talking about how he needs to come up with a plan to use charity funds to buy his daughter toys.
And it looks like I know the case is signed by the original illustrator himself. Whether you leave that on there or not, I know that'll kind of be up to you with that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's pretty cool having it on there. My other one does not have it. So this is actually a one of a kind with
That
the autograph
is.
on the case.
That's a good point.
I have two more questions. Yeah. This is a one that a lot of people bring up the art thing in regards to Pokemon, even like, you know, maybe not just the top cards, but even lesser known cards. A lot of people indicate and like to express that they truly enjoy the art. Would you consider this not only collecting, but art appreciation at the same time, as far as gathering and getting your hands on cards? Is that also an art thing, you would say?
I've done 100 interviews, and I've never been asked that before. And I'll tell you the truth. The art side of it, I really don't get it, right? But maybe that's because I'm 66 years old, right? I love everything else about the hobby. The artwork, you know, it's hard for me to really appreciate the art. But for all the younger people, half the things they talk about is the incredible artwork. I mean, I love things like Himeno, the girl, her Happy Birthday Pikachu. I think that's really cool. And the Lugia, I think it's tremendous. The base set Venusaur, love that artwork. But it's a few specific cards and not the overall. I don't think we're talking about, you know, Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo here, right? But they, you know, the majority of collectors do love the artwork. So, I mean, who am I to knock it?
Wow, this is it, man.
That's the one.
This is a BGS 10 signed.
Yes.
Wow.
In this case, the signature means very little.
Why is this Gary's first response to Graham Stephan admiring the card? At this point in the conversation, no one is talking about whether or not a signature adds value to a card. Listen to how the tone of Graham's voice changes in response to Gary, and also watch Jack's reaction to what Gary's about to say.
Yeah.
Arita, who did design that Charizard, and it's signed on the case, not the card.
Right.
I mean, never would you let him sign that card, because that's extremely special.
Wait, who signed this?
Arita.
Mitsuhiro.
Yeah, the artist. Yeah, but which in a lot of cases, that's a big deal. But this card is such a big deal, his signature means nothing. Yeah, I could take, I'm tempted to take it off of there.
Why?
It's just on the case. It's not on the card.
By Gary stating, and I quote, "I mean, never would you let him sign that card because that's extremely special," Gary is valuing a copy of a card that was printed hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times, over the unique signature from the creator of the original artwork. This is like Gary stating that Katsushika Hokusai is not worthy to sign a postcard containing a copy of his own artwork because it's the most pristine postcard with his artwork on it. And by Gary stating, which in a lot of cases, that's a big deal, but this card is such a big deal, his signature means nothing, Gary is attempting to devalue the signature because he knows that when he sells off the remaining amount of ownership that he has left on that card, that the amount that it goes for, one could rightfully argue that it went for that amount because of the signature and the grade of the card, and inherently lower the value of his second BGS 10. And this proves 100% without a doubt that Gary is only into Pokemon because of the money, and that he believes that a signature only holds value if it doesn't interfere with his agenda to manipulate the prices of collectibles or to boost his ego. And for those of you who are only into collectibles because of the monetary value, what kind of impact do you think Gary's statement has on other cards or collectibles that are signed?
And yet I own them. I'm affecting my own values by saying that, because a lot of people listen to me, right, about this.
Gary, because I don't think it's just the investment. It's also you as a collector, you want it. You don't want it just for the money, but you want it clean just as a collector because you prefer having like the cleanest Charizard in the world with a completely clean case. As a collector, even separate from money. Is that true?
Well, that is actually also true.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be totally honest, it's still on there. You know, I still have trouble erasing that.
So Gary just admitted that he's been trying to remove the signature from the plastic slab that Beckett assigned to the card when it was graded. And after Gary realizes what he just said, Gary starts to fumble to try and walk back on his previous statement.
Because, you know, I have two. One does not have any writing on the
plastic case. That one has his name. He signed the plastic case. I still have it on there because I just don't have much of a reason to take it off. But on that business channel, I wanted to make it clear that just because it had the autograph, that doesn't make it $1 million card.
Now, despite Gary and Jake's opinion, sold and completed listings on eBay prove otherwise, as cards that are signed by Mitsuhiro Arita are sold for significantly more. And remember, Gary sold 16% ownership to his friend and longtime business partner, Steve. And that ownership was sold with the signature. Now, based on the chemicals and or tools Gary used to remove the signature or attempt to remove the signature, Gary could have damaged the quality of the slab. And for anyone who wants to argue that the slab does not contribute towards Gary's estimated price of the card, I ask you, how much do you think that card is really worth outside of that slab? But Gary intentionally modified what is now considered an iconic piece of Pokemon history in order to further manipulate the price of Pokemon cards.
But on that business channel, I wanted to make it clear that just because it had the autograph, that doesn't make it $1 million card.
I'm starting to think that Gary is the Bill Mastro of Pokemon.
Bill Mastro discusses the condition of the card when he purchased it, talked about how it had bowed side borders shaped like a football, and how he trimmed the sides of that card in order to make it more attractive.
But Mastro seems to care more about money than preserving history.
He's referred to by some as the godfather of the industry.
Now, if the FBI is watching this, and based on information that Gary has previously made public, Gary either has these cards at the American Guardian Safety Deposit and Storage Facility in Las Vegas, Nevada, inside of box 11203, or at the Shield Storage Self-Storage Facility in Placerville, California.
Or the Trophy 123s, or I mean, they all got they all got Pikachu on it, and so yeah, I would say he's the Mickey Mouse of Pokemon for sure.
The Mickey Mouse, I love that. I always
now I don't know if it's he. I should say I don't know if it's a he, and I know my friend David. You know, he feels the same way. He kind of thinks it's gender neutral or something.
This is yet another case of Mr. Geriatric Haase making an ass out of himself and the Pokemon community. And further proves that he knows absolutely nothing about Pokemon, as genders have played a huge part in the franchise since Season 1 of the anime and the very first games. And as for Pikachu, you can tell if a Pikachu is male or female based on the shape of its tail. If it's a female, it's a heart-shaped tail, and if it's a male, it's a lightning bolt-shaped tail.
But
wow,
anyway.
I didn't know that was a big deal in the Pokeverse.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't we have to ask the company or the artist?
Probably, maybe the artist. You know, maybe the artist.
Do any Pokemon have genders? Or are they all neutral?
I mean, it's hard to think of a Charizard as being, you know, feminine.
Well, that escalated quickly because now he's talking about gender stereotypes. And it's his type of mentality that encourages hate and harassment in this community. But it's characters like Liza and her Charizard Charla and the entire story arc of Ash and the Terrific Valley and his Charizard are just some of the few reasons that made Johto Journey so great.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bet we could write a text on that, a report on that.
Well, my mind is
interesting to find out. Yeah, me too. Now you have all these Pokemon flashing through my head, and I'm thinking, what is this? What is this? What is this?
I'm like spinning through them, and then occasionally I'll think of like a Mario character. I'm like, no, not Pokemon, not Pokemon. And then I keep going.
Right. Uh-huh.
So I know you have some cards with you.
Or Boo.
Okay, if you don't mind, let me say Boo. She might not like that, but okay. So when it came to that situation, I was simply making it clear to the business community, that is a special card. She came back somewhere on one of those tweets, I think, and said that I was that I have my own cards, that I had my own cards made for Collecticon.
Gary had his Instagram followers help him design that card. And then he was selling it to anyone that would ask.
And I autographed them for the people, almost like that, number one, had something to do with me. And number two, that I was making money on that.
That's because you were making money on that, Gary.
And then she added that I was sitting on a throne.
That's because you were sitting on a throne without a mask and getting everybody sick.
Okay, now those are 3 points, all boom, 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 that are all 100% false. But it would make me look bad.
You make yourself look bad. Also, why are you and Michael Waddell making fake Pokemon cards?
Like, first off, I knew nothing about those cards, those custom cards that were being printed. That was all done by Collecticon. I was wrong, maybe some I was right, but either way, I would have answered the way that I felt. And I would have told, just like I'm going to tell you the truth.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Hey, Tuan, come here a minute. Come here a minute.
Meeting Queen Pokemon.
Yes, Queen Pokemon.
Pokemans, yeah.
Come here a minute.
Hey, come on in.
Come over here. Say hello.
I've said this before in other videos, but I seriously hate how he calls for her like she's some sort of animal and points for where he wants her to stand.
Yeah, we're talking about when we met in Vietnam.
Okay.
And you hadn't heard about Pokemon at the time, over there. And yet, we're just kind of telling our story.
Seriously, it's so creepy how he says it. And it feels like it's a reminder and a threat in the same sentence.
At the time, he said he had nothing, but he has a lot of cards. And he just said, come over here, visit. And then if 5 years later, you stay here for 5 years, if 5 years later you don't like it, then you can we go back.
5 years?
Yeah.
5 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
5 years, by then you're settled.
Yeah, that's why he's smart enough, yes.
That was the plan from the beginning.
Watch how Gary's body language completely changes, and he even starts breathing heavier because he starts getting nervous about what Tuan is saying.
What card do you have? He said, Pokemon card. I don't have no idea about Pokemon card at that time. And then when I moved here, 2010, I saw him like crazy. Night and day, everything on it. I said, Gary, you should sleep sometime,
Everything
right?
Pokemon.
No, everything Pokemon. And then 2012, I started to get in it, but not deeply like him because I have another vision, like, that autism.
Yeah.
So at that time, not autism yet. Autism is about 2014.
Yeah.
So Tuan starts slipping in her story, and Gary looks like he's about to have an aneurysm.
So I start to, I even start my eBay, but tell you the truth, I sell $0 on the eBay, and then I close it. So I said, no, this is not for me. And I said, okay, just keep everything there for me. So I put everything in the storage.
Wow.
Yeah. And
you know what they say, the family that commits tax evasion together stays together, or as it gets arrested together.
So you got her with Pokemon. Most guys would be like, come check out my mansion. I got a car. But you said, come check out the Pokemon card.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at that
wow.
time, I didn't know anything about Pokemon. And slowly I know it, but not totally 100% in it.
Wow.
But I support him.
That's
so
nice.
I trust his instinct and his love. And then when you love someone, you love everything about that person. That's what
Do you ever get in fights about Pokemon that it's too much Pokemon? You tell them this.
Remember, Gary made close to $1 million selling Pokemon cards on Instagram last year. So once Tuan starts bringing up Instagram, Gary starts to sweat.
I didn't have Instagram. Recently, I start Instagram. Is that you have to spend time with your family, Daddy. and then when I sign up Instagram, he said, my wife he posted on one of my boss. He supposed to say, my wife just get into Instagram. Just say follow her something. And the next morning, I saw 400 people, 400 something people.
Yeah, what's your Instagram? Everyone who's watching. Go follow her. Let's do this.
People here, 70,000.
Yeah, guys,
my
just go to Instagram.
Is Autism Instruct.
Okay.
And then
at Autism
Instruct.
Yes,
like
and it's
instruction. Autism Instruct.
And it's for a good cause, helping charity.
Autism Instruct is just her username. They are not a charity. They are scammers, though.
Yes.
Towards autism, I think this is good. So go, guys, just do it. Just do it.
And then then I say, oh my gosh, this is what you spend time for? You love. And then I fell in love.
Oh, I was the director of a resort, casino, hotel right on the South China Sea. And Tuan was hired to be the assistant director. Plus, she spoke multiple languages, which I needed because very few people spoke English there.
So I looked into Long Hai Beach Resort in Vietnam, which is where Gary said that he worked at in Vietnam. And this place has zero association with any of Gary's previous employers. And mind you, this is around 2008, 2009. But Gary left his family behind in the US so he could run off to a casino/resort that his previous employers had nothing to do with, so he could have a relationship with Tuan and they could move back to the United States together in 2010. Something does not feel right about this story.
What's the furthest you've traveled to collect a Pokemon?
Well, Vietnam.
You traveled to Vietnam?
I had a fellow who had known me from there, said there was some kind of a boat accident on the way to Korea or something like that, and they had Pokemon sealed cases, and he wanted to know if I'd be interested. He said that there's quite a bit of water damage in that.
Yeah.
But would I be interested? So got right over there.
So Gary went to Vietnam to buy cases of Pokemon cards that fell off the back of a boat. And if you listen closely to his story, the person he bought them from wasn't the person that was supposed to receive the shipment. So Gary bought stolen goods in Vietnam. Gary was able to avoid detection by customs and/or the IRS by having Tuan move those cards into the US and claim that those were her possessions when she moved.
At the time, he said he had nothing, but he has a lot of cards. And then when I moved here, 2010, I saw him like crazy. Night and day, everything on it. I said, Gary, you should sleep sometime, right? No, everything Pokemon.
Gary is quick to label anyone that dares to question him or Steve Aoki as a hater and a clout chaser, and claims that any evidence that shows him in a negative light was cherry-picked and untrue. When additional evidence is provided, Gary tries to use the claim that you shouldn't judge a man by his worst day, and attempts to justify his negative actions by rehashing his charity work. And just because you give to charity, it doesn't mean you're a good person. But in Gary's case, most of the funds aren't even going where he says they are. Gary's lack of concern and empathy for others is disturbing, as he is the type of person that is willing to put others in harm's way to destroy entire communities just to make a buck or to inflate his ego. And finally, as long as people like Gary Haase and Steve Aoki are involved with this hobby, I'm not going to stop exposing them. Because do we really want a repeat of this for the 30th anniversary?
Not even so much that it was their fault, although I think that's the part of the message that got confused. It was that they're not talking about it and they should be. And that's controversial too, because is that their responsibility to talk about the struggles in the hobby that their communities are going, or should they only have an uppy positive message? Now for me,
and is it her responsibility to tell them how to be,
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. Like for me, I think it'd be nice if they did, but like
if they did what?
If they made some videos during that time about how it's difficult to get product for some people and some people are unhappy, but like
what would that do? What would that change? I don't get that. That's all for 50 years I've seen that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to change anything. Why complain and snivel about it?
Well, to me, it's not complaining. To me, it's empathizing. There's a difference. And I think the problem is there's been way too much complaining this year and not enough like empathizing.
Well, okay, empathizing, babying the people. I don't know. I'm not from that generation, I'm afraid. You know, if you can't take that, you know, if you can't take, you know, those are life's disappointments. Okay, now those are 3 points, all boom, boom, boom.
Let me hear you say, wiggle.
3 points, all boom, boom, boom.
Everybody say, wiggle.
Boom, boom, boom.
Let me hear you say, wiggle. I say, boom, boom, boom.